On my birthday, I stood in front of my family with a black eye. The room went quiet. My son, Alex, came up slowly and asked how it happened. I looked at Mary and said it was from a fight over how she was disciplining Alex. But the real truth was worse. My name is David, and I've been married to Mary for 12 years. We have a son, Alex, and I always thought we had a good life. But over the past year, Mary started getting stricter with Alex. It felt like every day there was some new rule or punishment. That caused a lot of tension between us. We argued more than we used to, mostly about how to handle Alex. I tried to keep things calm, but it kept building up. Then on my birthday, everything came crashing down. The black eye I had wasn't just a mark on my face. It was a sign of how bad things had gotten between us, even if no one wanted to say it out loud. That night, the cracks in our family showed up where everyone could see. It all happened in the kitchen, just a few hours before my birthday party was supposed to start. Mary was already on edge, and Alex had done something small, something minor, but Mary was really harsh with him. I could tell right away she was pushing too hard, so I stepped in to calm things down. Alex looked at me with tears in his eyes, and I could see how scared he was. Mary was standing close, and she was upset, yelling about responsibility or something like that. I tried to say something, just to slow her down, but she didn't want to listen. I moved a bit closer to shield Alex, hoping to stop the argument before it got worse. That's when it happened. Mary's hand swung out during the scuffle. It wasn't intentional, but it hit me right in the face. The pain was immediate and sharp. I stumbled backward, clutching my eye because it hurt so much. Alex, still crying, ran out of the kitchen and straight to his room. I stood there, stunned and still holding my face. The pain was spreading, and I could already see it starting to bruise. Mary just froze for a second, maybe realizing what had happened, but then she quickly turned away, not saying anything. There was this heavy silence between us. I didn't want to make a big deal of it at the time. I thought if I said anything, it would just escalate things. So I stayed quiet, trying to keep the peace for Alex's sake and the party coming up. But inside, I knew something had shifted. That black eye became the thing everyone noticed that night. It was like a spotlight on everything that was wrong, but nobody wanted to talk about. And it all started in that kitchen, with a moment I never thought would happen in my own home. By the time the guests started arriving, I was already feeling the weight of the black eye. I tried to keep my face calm, but I could feel the stares. People didn't say anything out loud, but the quiet whispers followed me like a shadow. The room felt smaller with every look I caught. I kept telling myself to focus on the party, but it was impossible to ignore the tension. Alex was nearby, and I noticed how he kept glancing at me with wide eyes. He looked scared, like he was trying to piece together what had happened. At one point, he tugged on my sleeve and pulled me aside, away from the other guests. His voice was barely above a whisper when he asked, "Dad, what happened?" I could see the worry in his face, and it hit me harder than the pain from my eye. I hesitated. I didn't want to upset him or make things worse. I looked over at Mary, who was standing across the room, pretending to be busy with the party preparations. She avoided looking at me, but I knew she was listening. I tried to keep my voice steady and said, "It was an accident during an argument about discipline." I wanted to keep it simple and avoid making a scene in front of everyone. Alex nodded slowly but didn't look convinced. I could feel his eyes searching mine for more. But before I could say anything else, Mary stepped in. She came over, her voice quick and a little sharp. "It's not what it seems," she said, avoiding eye contact with both of us. She moved a little closer to the table where the drinks were, clearly trying to distract everyone from the situation. Her words didn't do much to calm the room. If anything, they made things feel more tense. I could feel the pressure building again, like the moment was hanging on a thread. Alex looked back and forth between us, confusion and fear mixing in his expression. I wanted to say more, explain what really happened, but I held back. I wasn't ready to open that door just yet, especially not with the guests around. Mary kept busy, wiping down the counter and arranging plates, but I could tell she was uneasy. The way she avoided looking at me or Alex said everything. It was like she wanted to erase the whole afternoon. I tried to focus on the people around me, smiling and making small talk, but my mind kept drifting back to Alex's question. The truth was heavier than I wanted to admit, and I wasn't sure how much more I could carry without breaking. As the party went on, I realized that the black eye wasn't just a mark on my face. It was a symbol of something deeper, something that was starting to unravel in our family. I looked at Mary one last time that night. She was still avoiding my eyes, busy with the preparations, but I knew the silence between us was louder than any words. I thought it was the end of the worst part, but the quiet that followed said otherwise. The party was winding down. Most of the guests had left, and the noise had faded to a low hum. I found myself alone with Alex in the kitchen. He was leaning against the counter, eyes fixed on me in a way that made my chest tighten. "Dad," he said softly, almost a whisper, "you can tell me the truth." I looked at him, really looked at him, and for a moment I didn't say anything. The weight of everything pressed down on me. I took a deep breath and nodded slowly. "Okay," I said quietly. "It's time you know." I told him how Mary had been trying to control everything lately. Not just the big stuff, but even how we raise him. "She's been stricter than before," I said. "And the arguments between her and me, they've been getting worse." I paused, trying to find the right words without making it worse. "Today," I said, "it wasn't the first time things got physical." Alex's eyes grew wide. I could see the shock hit him, like something inside him cracked open. "What do you mean?" he asked, voice trembling a little. I swallowed hard. "Mary's crossed a line, Alex. Not just with me, but with you too." The words felt heavy as I said them out loud. I wanted to protect him, but I couldn't keep hiding it anymore. Alex looked down, then back up at me, searching my face for answers. "When?" he asked, voice low. "Before today," I said. "There have been times when she's been too harsh. I didn't want to scare you, so I kept quiet. But it's been happening." I reached out and put a hand on his shoulder, steadying myself as much as him. He didn't say anything for a long moment. The silence was thick, broken only by the faint ticking of the kitchen clock. Finally, he whispered, "I thought it was just me being bad." "No," I said firmly. "It's not you. It's her. And it's not okay." There was a flicker of relief in his eyes, but it was mixed with fear. I could see it there, quiet but real. "What do we do now?" he asked. I shrugged, though it felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. "I don't know yet, but I promise you, we'll figure it out together." He nodded slowly, still looking unsure, but trusting me enough to listen. I could feel the tension in my chest ease just a little. It was like admitting the truth took some of the burden off my own shoulders, even if it made everything feel more uncertain. We stayed in the kitchen for a while longer, not saying much, just sitting with what had been said, letting the quiet fill the space between us. Outside, the last guests were leaving, but inside, a new kind of silence had settled. I thought maybe this was the moment things would start to change. But even as I hoped, I couldn't shake the unease that settled deep inside me. The truth was out, but the path forward was still unclear. The silence that followed said otherwise. Alex looked at me, his eyes sharp but shaky. There was something in them I hadn't seen before, a mix of anger and fear. "Dad," he said quietly, "we need to talk to her." I nodded. I knew he was right. We couldn't just let this hang in the air. We found Mary in the living room. She was tidying up, stacking empty plates and glasses from the party. Her movements were slow, and she avoided looking at either of us. The room felt heavy, like the air was waiting for something to break. I took a breath and said, "Mary, we need to talk about what happened earlier." My voice was firm but steady. She froze. For a moment, it seemed like she might say nothing at all. Then she slowly sat down on the couch, her hands tightening in her lap. She finally looked at both Alex and me, her eyes glossy. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she said, her voice breaking. A tear slipped down her cheek, and she hurried to wipe it away. "I never wanted you or Alex to get hurt." The words hung between us, fragile but real. Alex shifted beside me, his arms crossed but his face softening a little. Mary's confession was a crack in the wall that had built up over months. I could see the guilt weighing on her, but there was also something else, a plea, quiet and desperate. "I've been under a lot of pressure," she continued, voice low. "Work, the house, everything feels like it's piling up. I thought if I was strict, if I kept control, it would fix things." She swallowed hard. But I was wrong. I see that now. I didn't interrupt. I wanted her to say what she needed to say. Alex stayed close, but didn't say a word. I think he was waiting to see if she could really mean it. Mary wiped her eyes again and looked at Alex. "I'm sorry, Alex. I want to do better. I don't want you to be scared." Her voice cracked again. "I want our family to be safe." Alex blinked, then said softly, "Mom, you scared me." His words were honest, simple, not angry, just true. Mary nodded, tears still on her cheeks. "I know. And I'm sorry. She looked at me. I want help. I know I can't do this alone. There was silence for a moment. The kind of silence that fills a room after something important is said. I realized this was the first time she'd admitted it out loud to both of us. I reached out, putting a hand on her shoulder. We'll figure this out. Together. My voice was calm, but inside I felt the weight of what was ahead. Alex looked at me, then at Mary. Can we really fix this? He asked quietly. I didn't have a perfect answer, but I knew we had to try. Mary nodded, a small, hopeful movement. I want to try. The three of us stayed there for a while, not saying much, just sitting in the quiet room. The tension hadn't disappeared, but the anger had softened. What was left was a fragile understanding, a first step. I thought maybe this was the turning point, the moment things could start to change. But the silence that followed said otherwise. After everything that happened, I felt like I needed to understand more about Mary. Not just what I saw, but what was behind it all. So, over the next few days, I started asking questions. I reached out to her sister, Linda, hoping she might know something I didn't. Linda answered on the second ring. I could tell she wasn't expecting my call. When I brought up Mary's behavior, she sighed heavily. David, Mary's been under a lot of pressure at work, she said quietly. She never talked about it at home, but it's been building for months. That caught me off guard. I knew Mary worked hard, but I didn't realize the full extent. Linda explained Mary's job had gotten much tougher in the last year. The company was downsizing, and Mary had to take on extra responsibilities. She was staying late almost every night, trying to keep everything afloat. Linda said Mary felt like she couldn't ask for help or show weakness at work. She wanted to be perfect. Hearing this made some things click. The way Mary had changed with Alex, the tightness in her voice, her quick temper, it wasn't just about discipline. It was more than that. The stress at work was bleeding into our home, and Mary was struggling to hold it together. Linda also mentioned Mary had been putting a lot of pressure on herself personally. She wanted to be the perfect wife, mother, and employee all at once. She's been trying to control everything to feel some kind of order, Linda said. But it's been breaking her. I felt a mix of relief and sadness. Relief because I finally understood part of what was going on. Sadness because Mary hadn't told me. She carried all this weight alone and didn't let me in. That made me realize how isolated she must have felt, even in our own home. Still, I couldn't ignore the fact that her behavior had crossed lines. The stress explained a lot, but it didn't excuse what happened with Alex or me. I told Linda that. She agreed. Mary needs help, David. She can't do this by herself. We talked for a while longer, and I learned Mary had been hiding emails and calls from work. She didn't want to share the bad news or complaints. It was like she was shutting everyone out, including me. That made me feel even further away from her. After I hung up, I sat down and thought about everything. The pressure, the secrets, the silence. It was a lot to take in. I realized Mary's actions weren't just about being strict or losing control. She was at her breaking point. But I also knew that understanding this didn't mean I should ignore what happened. We had to face it together, and she had to start making changes. I couldn't let things spiral any further, especially for Alex's sake. So I started looking into options for help. I wanted Mary to get some support before things got worse. I didn't know how she would take it, but something had to change. I couldn't watch us fall apart like this. The more I thought about it, the more I saw the bigger picture. Mary wasn't just angry or harsh because she wanted to be. She was overwhelmed and scared. But at the same time, that didn't mean I had to accept the way she treated us. I was caught between wanting to protect my family and wanting to support Mary through her struggles. It was a hard place to be. I wasn't sure how to balance it all yet. For now, I decided to keep talking to Linda. Having someone to share these things with helped me feel less alone. I also started paying closer attention to Mary's mood and behavior, trying to spot when she was reaching her limit. I knew this was just the beginning of dealing with a bigger problem, but at least I wasn't in the dark anymore. That made me feel a little stronger, even if the road ahead looked tough. I thought maybe with the right help, we could start fixing things before it got worse. But deep down, I worried about how long Mary had been holding all this in and what it had already cost us. The silence between us was heavy, but now I had a small window into what was behind it. That knowledge was both a burden and a hope. I wasn't sure what would come next, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. Mary needed help, and so did we. After the conversation with Alex, I knew we couldn't just sweep this under the rug. The tension was too thick, and I could see Mary struggling. even if she didn't say much. I spent a day looking up therapists who specialized in family issues. It felt like admitting defeat, but also like the only way forward. I talked to Mary about it that evening, sitting with her in the living room after Alex had gone to bed. I was careful with my words. "Mary, I think we need help. A professional who can guide us through this." She looked down at her hands, quiet for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. "I know. I've been thinking the same. I don't want to keep hurting Alex or you." She didn't argue or make excuses. Instead, she admitted it out loud. The tension, the stress, the way it had been building inside her. It was the first time she really said it like that. I could tell it wasn't easy for her to admit, but she did. We found a therapist that we both felt comfortable with. The first appointment was set for the following week. Mary agreed to come with me and Alex. But she also promised to schedule individual sessions on her own. She said she wanted to work on her own struggles, to understand why she'd let things get so out of hand. That promise felt like a small step, but a real one. She said she wanted to make sure she kept clear boundaries with Alex, to protect him from any more of the anger and frustration she'd been carrying around. It was a relief to hear her say that. It showed she understood the damage done and was willing to do the work. The days leading up to the first session were tense. We all avoided the topic mostly, but I could see Mary trying to keep her cool. I knew she was scared too. Therapy meant facing everything head-on, and that's never easy. But we both knew it was necessary. When the day came, we sat in the waiting room together. Alex was quiet but held my hand tightly. Mary's hands were folded in her lap, her eyes fixed on the floor. The therapist greeted us warmly and explained how the sessions would work. It was straightforward, not overwhelming. During the session, Mary opened up about the stress she'd been under at work, the pressure she never told us about. She talked about feeling overwhelmed and how it had affected her mood at home. Alex shared how scared and confused he had felt. I listened, trying to keep my focus on what was being said, not on the awkward silence that came with some of the truths. Mary apologized to both of us in front of the therapist. It wasn't a grand speech, just a quiet, sincere, "I'm sorry." That moment felt like a crack in the wall we'd built around ourselves. Alex nodded, and for the first time in a long time, I saw a glimpse of hope in his eyes. We left the session with a plan. Weekly family therapy, plus Mary's individual sessions. It was clear this wouldn't be fixed overnight, but at least we were moving in the right direction. Back at home, the atmosphere was lighter, but fragile. Mary kept her word and booked her individual appointments. She even started journaling, something she hadn't done before. I sensed she was trying, really trying, to make changes. I didn't say much about the black eye anymore. It was still there, a reminder, but it wasn't the focus. What mattered was the slow, steady work we were doing as a family. Mary was no longer shutting down or pushing away. She was facing her problems, and that made me hold on to a hope I hadn't felt in months. I don't know how this will end. I don't know if we'll ever get back to what we had before. But for the first time in a long time, I believe we can build something better. The road is long, but at least we're walking it together. I thought that maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something real. But the silence after that first session said there was still a lot left to fix. We showed up to our first family therapy session feeling tense, but I knew it was necessary. The waiting room was quiet except for the ticking clock. Mary sat stiffly next to me, and Alex clung to his backpack, eyes flicking between us. The therapist, a woman named Lisa, greeted us warmly and led us into a small office with 3 chairs arranged in a circle. Right away, Lisa asked Mary to talk about what had been going on. At first, Mary hesitated, her hands twisting in her lap. Then she started to explain the pressure she'd been under at work. She said it was more than just stress. It felt like everything was on her shoulders. Mary's voice cracked a few times as she admitted she hadn't told us how overwhelmed she was. I noticed her shoulders slump as if some of the weight was finally lifting. When it was Alex's turn, he looked down at his hands, but then slowly looked up and told Lisa how confused and scared he'd been. He said he didn't understand why Mom was so strict all the time and why there had been yelling. Alex's words were quiet, but full of pain. It hit me hard hearing him say that. I kept my hand on his knee to let him know I was there. Lisa then asked me to share. I told them about feeling stuck between Mary and Alex, wanting to keep peace, but feeling powerless. I didn't hold back about the black eye incident or how that day had changed everything. Saying it out loud made it real in a way I hadn't admitted even to myself. The room felt heavy for a while, but then Lisa asked Mary if she wanted to say anything to Alex and me. Mary looked at us both, eyes rimmed with tears. She took a deep breath and said, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry for how I treated you, Alex. And David, I'm sorry for hurting you too. I didn't mean for it to go this far." Her voice was steady but soft. I could see the shame and regret in her face. That moment was different from any conversation we'd had before. Mary's apology wasn't just words. It was out there, in front of us and the therapist. Alex's eyes filled with tears, but he nodded slowly. I reached out and squeezed Mary's hand lightly. It was the first time I felt like maybe we could start fixing this. Lisa helped us talk about what we needed to do next. Mary promised to work on managing her stress better and to keep things calm with Alex. Alex said he wanted Mom to listen more and not get so angry. I agreed to be more present and supportive for both of them. It wasn't a perfect plan, but it felt like a start. When the session ended, none of us said much. We walked to the car in silence. Mary's apology hung in the air between us, a quiet promise that things could change. I looked at Alex in the back seat and saw a flicker of hope there too. That night, as I lay awake, I thought about how far we had to go. The black eye was still there, a reminder of what had happened. But now it also reminded me of this turning point. We'd faced the truth together, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like maybe we were on the path to healing. I thought it was over, but the silence that followed said otherwise. It's been months since everything came to a head with the black eye incident. Things have settled into a new normal at home. Mary has been going to therapy regularly, and it's clear the sessions are helping her manage the stress she was carrying. I don't want to say everything's perfect, but the tension that used to hang over us has eased quite a bit. Alex and I have started talking more openly too. Before, it felt like we were walking on eggshells, trying not to set Mary off or make things worse. Now, we can say what we really mean without fear. We've been careful to set clear boundaries about how we communicate and how Mary handles discipline. It's not just rules for Alex, but for all of us. I think having those boundaries in place has made a big difference. Mary seems more present these days, more patient with Alex and with me. She still struggles sometimes, but she's learning to recognize the signs of stress before it gets out of control. I can see her putting in the effort, and it's changing how we interact. The black eye that used to feel like a scar on our family's story is now more like a reminder of how far we've come. Instead of a symbol of conflict, it's a reference point for growth. We've also been doing small things to rebuild trust and connection, like family dinners where phones are put away and Alex gets to talk about his day without interruption. Mary and I have started having short talks after Alex goes to bed, checking in with each other about how we're doing. It's nothing dramatic, just simple, honest conversations. Those moments have helped us understand each other better. It hasn't been easy. There were times when Mary wanted to give up on therapy or when old habits almost took over. But somehow, we kept pushing forward. I think what helped the most was realizing that we're all on the same team, even when things get messy. Alex knows we love him and that we're trying to do better. And Mary knows she's not alone in this. I still remember the night of my birthday party. The black eye was obvious to everyone, and I could feel the weight of all the unspoken things in the room. But now, when I see the mark on my face in old pictures, I don't flinch. It reminds me of the moment we decided to face our problems instead of hiding them. There's still work to do, of course. Mary's therapy sessions continue, and I keep encouraging her to take care of herself. We're all learning how to support each other without slipping back into old patterns. Alex is growing up in a better environment now, one where he feels safer and more heard. The biggest change might be how we handle conflict. Instead of shutting down or walking away, we try to talk things out. Sometimes it's awkward or frustrating, but it's better than the silence we had before. I think that's what's helped us heal the most. I don't want to pretend that the black eye didn't hurt, physically or emotionally, but it forced us to take a hard look at ourselves. And while it's a painful memory, it's also a turning point. We're not perfect, but we're trying. We're showing up for each other in ways we didn't before. So, months later, our family is still here. We're still figuring things out. But there's a quiet hope now, the kind that comes from doing the hard work and seeing small changes add up. Mary's stress is more manageable, Alex feels safer, and I feel more connected to both of them. The black eye is still there in old photos, but it doesn't define us anymore. I thought that moment might break us. Instead, it became a starting point. And that makes all the difference. Looking back, I don't just see that black eye as a low point anymore. It was a turning point for us, even if it was painful to get there. We faced everything head on, without pretending it didn't happen. That took time and a lot of work, but it was necessary. Mary has been going to therapy regularly. It's helped her manage the stress that was building up for so long. Our communication has gotten better too. We actually talk now instead of shutting down or arguing in circles. Alex is responding well to that change. His relationship with Mary is much healthier than it was before. We're all committed to creating a respectful and safe space at home. It doesn't mean everything is perfect, but it means we're trying. Mary has promised to keep those boundaries with Alex, and I've been supporting her through it. It's been hard, but I think we're stronger as a family because of it. Sometimes I still catch myself thinking about that day, the black eye, the silence, and the tension. But now it feels less like a sign of failure and more like a beginning. We're not the same family we were then, and that's a good thing. We're learning to be better together. If you're seeing signs and choosing to ignore them, please don't wait like I did. I kept making excuses for Mary and myself, hoping things would just get better on their own. But they didn't. Sometimes, it takes something painful, like that black eye, to force you to face the truth. If you notice tension, if you feel the distance growing, don't brush it aside. Talk to each other. Be honest, even if it's hard. Reach out for help before things break down completely. Therapy saved us, but more importantly, it gave us a chance to understand what was really going on beneath the surface. Our family's well-being should always come first. I wish I had realized that sooner. Don't wait for a moment like mine. Take action early. It could change everything before it gets worse.